Alright, so hi, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Level of Detail. I'm going to do this really quick because I'm joined today with two good friends of mine, Crash, UEAKCrash, and iiboharz. We're going to be playing some Team Fortress 2. Say hello, everyone.
Hi!
There we go. So we're going to be playing some Team Fortress 2 today. We're going to be talking about TF2 level design, and fortunately for us, iiboharz here and Crash are both community TF2 mappers. Crash has made... God, what maps did you get into game? Moonshine, Probed.
And Probed.
Yep, Probed was part of the Invasion update. Moonshine was part of Halloween 2 years ago? Last year?
2015.
So 2 years ago. iiboharz also worked on Sunshine, which was part of the same update, I believe.
2015, yeah.
Yep. So we're going to be talking about TF2 and why I consider it probably one of the most intricate and hardest and craziest and most fun things to design levels for. But for now, I guess I'll also pitch out a Crash's stream. Crash is a Twitch streamer who plays TF2 and maps TF2 all the time. So he is... Yeah, it's Crash. So he is currently streaming right now over on his channel at twitch.tv/ is it UEAKCrash? Yep, twitch.tv/UEAKCrash. You should totally go watch him from his perspective. He is wearing a much better Halloween getup than I am.
Oh, Frozen, you have a face cam.
I do have a face cam.
I've never watched one of your streams.
That's okay. Not many people have.
I've watched
At least not many people that I know.
Caffeine doesn't want to support opera. So he can't watch.
So I hope everyone has a wonderful Halloween, and if you don't celebrate Halloween, I hope you have a wonderful Tuesday.
Tuesday is my favorite day of the week, not gonna lie.
It's a good day.
See, I was just telling my stream that we can never get to watch each other's streams because we stream at the exact same time every week. Like, we have a scheduled stream.
Yeah. Well, I was like, well, maybe we should do a different time, and then they're like, no, actually, you're doing a good time slot, so let's do that. Tuesday hype for sure. So, yeah, so just a little bit of a background on what's going to be going on with this stream. Since both Crash and I are streaming, I might be talking to them. Well, the main goal is I want to talk to them. So we're going to be talking to Ibo and Crash about what it's like to be a TF2 mapper and to make maps for TF2. And then all the other boring theory crap I'll be talking about to myself. Unless I want their input, which is always.
Yay, boring theory craft.
I like theory. So, yeah, so I guess I just kind of want to get started by asking you guys, what do you like about TF2? Start with a loaded question.
It's fun video games. The community, like the fact that we have a ton of people 10 years after a game was made, still making stuff for that game, making cool stuff for that game, and, you know, getting it picked up, put into it, and just daily testing on, like, TF2 maps and stuff still happening. 10 years later, that's nuts.
Yeah, TF2 just passed its 10-year anniversary back in 2 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago to the day. So this game is... Oh, I didn't get in.
Oh, we both missed it.
No! Yeah, this game, I mean, it's 10 years old and it is still going. It just had its first update in a year, a little over a year, a few weeks ago.
Major update, anyway.
Yeah, first major update at least. I don't know, was it like the first major update or did they have minor updates too? No!
Little more.
I
Nothing
had
that
like
big.
a case over this year.
And, yeah, and I mean, people are still making stuff for it daily, and the TF2 Maps community, which is where Crash and I hail from, and Crash and I have been site admins for Ibo. Are you site or server?
I am site.
Okay, never mind.
We don't have those distinctions anymore.
Oh, okay. So everyone, I'm no longer an admin there. I was up until about 2016, but Ibo and Crash both are, so they have a much better finger to the pulse of TF2 mapping community. Oh god, little skeletons! We're also playing a bunch of non-standard maps. We are playing custom maps made by community members here. We'll be playing one by Crash coming up probably in the next hour or so.
And this one was made by Yerzy of the TF2 Maps community. And I did a little bit of work on it. Actually, if you go to the Underworld, that part was made by me.
Yep. And the other thing, we are playing Halloween maps because it is Halloween, and I love Halloween. And if you have a problem with that, deal with it. So enough about that. Let's start chatting about level design of Team Fortress 2. Trying to think about where to start because there's so many things to talk about.
The scaling is...
Scaling would be big. How about we start with game modes, actually? Because that's something that TF2 is kind of known for, a single game mode that we'll be playing next. But Bagel Cauldron, I think it's also called. Wow, wait, I've never seen that particle effect.
It comes back down at you too. Watch out.
Does it actually hurt you?
Yep.
So is it projectiles?
It's really complicated, and you have to ask Yerzy.
That's actually pretty good. So we're going to be talking about, I guess we'll start with the game modes, because TF2 kind of is known for a single game mode, in my opinion, but it has probably some of the most solid game modes that I know of in most multiplayer shooters, and that would be like the one we're playing now, which is King of the Hill. Pretty standard for most shooters. It also has payload, and it has capture point in 4 different flavors. 5 different flavors. I don't know if they invented payload for TF2.
Payload was actually like a spin on VIP, because they always had the problem where the VIP could be a player and they would like troll you and like go off in a different direction, or not know what they're doing.
Specifically, like the implementation in TF2.
The on the rails bit, I think TF2 invented it, but I don't want to claim that. But arguably, payload is what a lot of, well, I should say, and I say arguably, but payload is kind of the game mode that a lot of people claim saved TF2 early on when it was first getting started, because it was so unique. And honestly, payload is probably my favorite game mode in TF2.
Actually, I like the attack defense a lot, but
yeah, 80's good.
Some of the biggest maps are payload, though, like Upward is like a super popular map.
Water.
It's arguably my like favorite map. I think it's arguably
Upward's like the Dust 2 of TF2.
I wouldn't quite say it's there, but it's pretty close, yeah.
Maybe 2 Fort's the Dust 2, because everyone and their mom plays it, but I don't know.
I don't know if I'd say 2 for it, but we won't be. We're not going to be touching on those maps today because it's Halloween, so we're going to be playing some custom maps. Spooky. I'm also not a fan of the spooky version of 2 Fort, so we'll just not go there. But yeah. So yeah, and the main thing that we wanted to kind of focus on, and we'll touch on when we start talking about when we actually start playing the game modes, is that they each have a very specific set of rules that the players will have to follow. So for in this case, King of the Hill, if you don't know what that is, you basically there's a single point, and you have to capture it, and it takes a certain amount of time set by the creator to capture the point. And then you need to hold on to the point with no enemies on it for a certain amount of time to then get ownership of it. And then once you get ownership of it, it will start counting down a clock that will run out, and by the time, and if you can hold it for long enough, you win. Which we didn't do there because we didn't recapture the point before the red team did. But each of these game modes have different sets of rules that come on that you need to follow when you're doing level design. Do you have a time limit set for these, or are you just manually doing it?
Nope. I figured whenever we were tired of it, we can go to the next one. So just let me know if you want to go to the next one. We can do so.
Okay. So do you guys Ibo, I know that you are working on you're working on a King of the Hill map right now, I believe.
Yeah, I am working on a map called Coffee Gate Bank. It's a spy tech sort of computer facility.
And so as someone who's currently working on a King of the Hill map, what are some interesting things that you might have about say King of the Hill that is kind of unique to the other game modes when you're designing?
Oh, let me just get to I can't play and talk at the same time.
This is practice.
Crash, just kill me. Just kill me.
Don't do it.
One thing about King of the Hill is that the map is like symmetrical, and you either mirror it or you rotate it, but still it's like a mirrored map. And then the thing is that on King of the Hill, like the most important part is like the middle part, the like main control point. That like, sorry, I'm just bad at collecting my thoughts.
It's alright.
Making a unique control point for King of the Hill maps is one of the most important things you can do, because it like helps players differentiate the maps, because it makes them all unique, and it. I don't know where I'm going with this thought.
No, that's good. No, talking about for the King of the Hill map, the main thing that you really want to focus on is the point, because that's the objective. You want to make that the point that players are drawn to.
You want to make it something that's visually unique, and you want to make it play well.
Something iconic to your map too.
Yeah,
you want it to be iconic.
And so that's usually where I've seen a lot of people start with King of the Hill maps. They start at the point. They have an idea, and they're like, this is kind of what I want to do. And that's what then they end up going with. And so obviously for this one, you see it's a giant cauldron.
Yeah.
I think the one everyone knows that like we mappers have referred to is a viaduct. That's kind of probably the most popular. I'd say most.
The viaduct formula.
Yeah.
First King of the Hill map in the game, I think.
Was it? I feel like that's something that I should know. But Viaduct, whether or not it was the first, it did set the precedent for how the structure of how King of the Hill maps work. And I'm going to take this, so if you guys talk, I'm just going to explain a bunch of random theory shit about like spawn yard point. So,
yeah, like, one of the things I've been struggling with the map actually is getting the spawn yard point thing right, because you have to have it's a pretty delicate balance in terms of, because well, like all the classes have different speeds and mobility abilities, so you have to get it right so that everyone playing any class can have a good time. And
timing is very important.
Yeah, I always think it's really hard to follow the formula, so to speak, without being too similar to the formula, and it can be really frustrating coming up with something unique and then people aren't into it, you know, necessarily.
Yeah. So I'm going to explain what that formula is really quick off mic, just so you guys don't have to listen to the same shit over and over again. So basically, the spawn yard formula is the spawn yard.
Except now my stream has this void of silence, so I'm trying to play.
All right, fine. I'll say it out loud. The spawn.
just showed up, so.
Okay. The spawn yard point formula, which Viaduct kind of set forward, was basically the players in TF2, they always start in spawn areas. It's not like Call of Duty or Battlefield where you start near another player or you start at random spawns throughout the map. There are fixed points within each map that players spawn in. So this is our spawn room that we're in. Red has one similar on the opposing side. As soon as we leave spawn, we are now in the spawn yard. Spawn yard is really important because this area should be very heavily weighed, but not necessarily 100% weighed to the team that is pushing outwards of their spawn. So we have the spawn yard, or the spawn yard, and then we have a buffer yard. Sometimes it's called the choke, other times it's called the, I can't remember what else it's been called, but I know there's like a couple of names for it. Yard, choke, battle zone. Either way, that's what this area is right here. And they're usually divided up, with the exception of the spawn, into the spawn yard. They are usually divided up with a kind of a buffer zone, in a sense, and that's gonna kill me. It's filled with a buffer zone, and it's this buffer zone that allows, it's almost like a waiting room in a sense for the team that is pushing into the next yard. So it's a staging area in a sense, and those are in between the yard in front of the spawn and then the yard in front of the point. And then the yard to the point, there's sometimes a bit of a buffer area, but it's not as defined. And there's a bunch of different reasons for why we have this, the way that it's set up. You'll notice that this is like, this area right here is the yard. Or not the yard, the buffer zone. You'll notice a big giant building. If you play like Overwatch or something, it's just a basic, it's usually a little more open. And that's partially due to the limitations of the Source engine. Source is, oh god, Crash, help me with this. How old is Source now? Like 300, 500 years old, something like that?
Oh god, I couldn't even tell you.
It's old.
Source is usually like at least.
Yeah, so TF2's Source has been updated multiple times, but its rendering is done, the way that it's rendered is through these things called viz leaves, which are 1024 by 1024, or 1024 cubes, units in game that is, that hold information within that, and as you add world brushes, so like those walls, the floors, that cube gets broken up, and then we have to calculate visibility and blah, 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 blah. Point is, you don't want to have very large open world areas because the Source engine just does not really handle that very well, and it doesn't look good, it doesn't play well, it doesn't render well, lower FPS, it's really, really bad like that.
Basically, how I've always described viz leaves are anything inside the box. If that box can see another box, both things are going to render in each box, and then when you combine that with all the other boxes in the map, that's what it's calculating when you're doing a compile. And it's, if you're on the other side of a wall, you want it to set up so your box is not connecting to the box on the other side of that wall, which often has to be done manually. And the engine doesn't understand it by itself necessarily.
Yeah.
Speaking of, actually, I'm currently writing an updated version of the interloper optimization there.
Ooh, nice.
That's good.
Which is supposed to be more concise and just simplified because that one is, it's our Bible, but it's extremely complicated.
Yeah, optimization in itself is like an art form that I don't know. It's kind of cryptic to a lot of people still.
I mean, the Interloper's Guide describes it as a university level study. So
yeah, and I think like Mangy Carface, who is another mapper. He's from many years ago, and he created Yukon and Frontier. I think he wrote like his master's dissertation on the theory and optimization of his map, so it's a little complicated. But the point that I want to make is it's an engine limitation that kind of drives the level design that we have. So looping everything back, it's, as I run back here, spawn yard, buffer, continual buffer, and the sizes of these vary. It depends on the type of mode you're doing and all that type of stuff. For King of the Hill, it's this kind of formula: point yard, point, and then it's mirrored on the other side. So that's the King of the Hill formula. Now, you can't really necessarily apply that to, say, payload. You can't apply that to arena. You can't apply that to PD, which hopefully we'll be looking at later. You can't really apply that to a lot of different maps. And that's where all these little difficulty things come in. Ah!
True story.
Yeah. Thrown off the edge. I don't know what happened there.